Welcome to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and Thisday Live begins now. Coming up in the next hour, Nigerians express outrage as petrol and electricity price hikes take a toll on their livelihoods. The commercial court in the United Kingdom rules in Nigeria's favor after the country successfully established a prima facie case of fraud against Process and Industrial Development Limited, also known as P&Id, in a botched gas supply processing contract, and a bill that seeks to empower the Nigerian government to control all sources of water in the country has been reintroduced in the House of Representatives. You're still watching Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. With the COVID-19 pandemic riding roughshod over the global economy, crude oil prices have plummeted to record lows. Expectedly, this had a negative impact on the Nigerian economy and its revenue expectations, leaving the government with no option than to deregulate the pump price of petrol in March this year. Reinforcing this, last Thursday, the federal government foreclosed reinstating the fuel subsidy regime, insisting that it was unsustainable and had constituted a drain on the country's meager resources. The federal government further explained that under the fuel subsidy regime, the commodity was retailed at a price lower than the landing cost, with the federal government paying the differential, which ran into billions of naira. The statement came just as the pump price of petrol rose to 152 naira to 162 naira per litre, resulting in a huge outcry from civil society groups and labor unions. The fuel price hike also coincided with the new service-reflective electricity tariff regime, which was announced by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, for the power sector. According to NERC, under the service-based principle, the electricity distribution companies, DISCOs, will only be able to review tariffs after consultations with electricity consumers and will be implemented on the basis of the number of hours of electricity supplied to homes and businesses. Now joining me to discuss the implications of the fuel subsidy removal and the hike in electricity tariffs is Comrade ISSA AREMU, a trade union activist and a member of the Executive Council of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Comrade, it's good to see you again on Arise News channel. The last time we spoke, you were on the morning show, but today you are on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. I know that previously you had expressed your views about the dangers of neoliberal market-driven capitalism. But here we are now. Fuel prices have gone up at the pump stations, fuel pump stations. Electricity tariffs have gone up. And the government has been very consistent since April in explaining that, well, market forces will determine the pump price of petrol and that is inevitable. And with regard to electricity tariffs, we've been told that part of the condition for getting a loan from the World Bank for the electricity sector is also to ensure that there's service or cost-reflective tariffs, what they call service-reflected tariffs. But now, as we are, labor is protesting. About 79 civil society organizations, they are threatening to have a national day of action. Is there something government should have done that it has not done? Because it looks obvious enough. And government has been offering different explanations. Or is labor, your constituency, just difficult? You have something against market forces?
Well, Ruben, let me say happy Sunday, and also through you to say happy Sunday to all our viewers. But let me first of all say that you must also not have neoliberal profiling of me. I used to be the member of the NEC of the NSC, of course, former vice president, but once in NSC, always NSC, so I agree with you. But currently, I'm speaking to you in my capacity as the vice president of Industrial Global Union, which is made up of many affiliates of industrial unions in Nigeria and globally, as you know the name. I'm also a member of the National Executive, a member of the National Institute, which you know very well, but that's just by the side. I think in your introduction, you've made a point, and I saw the picture. You also said so Nigerians are already groaning due to the increase in the price of fuel. Very astronomical. I mean, about 161 naira per liter.
No, it's 161 in some places, yeah. 162 in some fuel stations.
Okay, that tells you that the minimum is 161 and 162.
The minimum is 151, the ex-depot price.
Yeah, precisely. And I'm a bit quite worried about this. First, not even as a labor man, but let me talk as a citizen. That at a time we are coming out of a pandemic, we are just easing the lockdown. And not only in Africa, worldwide, all governments are concerned about how to reset their economies to get the people back to work. And you know the numbers very well. The Honorable Minister of Finance, said so aptly that the second quarter GDP numbers will be negative, and it has come to pass now because National Bureau of Statistics have shown that Nigeria economy is quite in recession. 22 million youths are out of jobs. There's mass poverty. Close to about 5 million Nigerians have been pushed to poverty due to the lockdown, especially those in the informal sector. Now, at a time we are also making effort to reinflate the economy, give support to medium and large-scale enterprises, including small enterprises, to return back to work. Now you carry out policies that will reduce the level of purchasing power, that will not be able to make people to really move around so that they can add to productivity. For me, it doesn't add up at all. So first, the context is completely insensitive. It's also not consistent with all the sermons that we have been having from this government, as well as all the agencies that were concerned about protection of lives and revival of livelihood. So it's not so much that we are opposed to market forces or we are for state regulation. It's here nor there. It's to look at the impact of these policies. Prices of other goods and services have gone up, foodstuff. Of course, transportation, that's the immediate one. Ruben, as I was coming for this your program, I came with my car all the way from Ikeja. There are, of course, no alternative for me than to be on the road. Of course, the roads are also, some of them are, some part of the way to Ireland are being repaired. So you are hooked on go slow, in which you keep on burning your fuel. But in other climate, I ought to have come here by rail. I could have come by public transport, buses, in which prices are regulated. Now, again, that's the context, again, which we are carrying out the so-called deregulation. In other countries, other factors are constant, in which you could have alternatives for you to be able to, if you don't want to fuel your car, if you don't want to go by road, you can go by rail, you can go by city trams, you can go by waterways. But in Nigeria, we're all road bound. So what I'm saying here is that I think this is one policy that is against the global trend in which everybody is struggling to revive the economy by enhancing purchasing power. And I think Central Bank of Nigeria, again, this is where I also see lack of coordination between the monetary policies and then the fiscal authorities in this country. The Central Bank of Nigeria has come out boldly with a series of policies to stimulate the economy. Almost about 2.3 trillion naira stimulus plan. Intervention, interest rates on CBN intervention funds have been reduced from 9% to 5%. They put moratoriums on loans so that they can stimulate the economy. So you expect the fiscal authorities to complement this by making sure that we'll put money in the hands of Nigeria so that they'll be able to buy, they'll be able to return to work. Now, you have increased petroleum prices. As you said, minimum 161, now in some places 162. Of course, you also know some part of the country where you have supply crisis. The prices are more than that. Now, who pays this bill? Who pays? So if the government is saying that it's not sustainable, but are the prices payable by the citizens? And I think the primary purpose of governance is the welfare of the citizens, including security. And when we talk of security, not just physical security, socio-economic security. This is going to lead to high costs of production, especially for medium and small enterprises, where they will lay off more jobs. Workers will be further retrenched because when the cost of production is higher than the rate of return, it is clear, especially in private sector, that you need to lay off workers, as the case may be. Then, of course, the purchasing power of the ordinary people is also going to be reduced. And then you also had electricity tariff hike. These are increases too many, all at the same time. And I was so interested in your point, which you raised, that IMF is planning to give support to the World Bank to the energy sector. And that's part of the conditionalities. Now, how can we operate based on conditionalities? Don't forget that many African countries, including Nigeria, we couldn't cope with this pandemic because of underlying fundamental economic meltdown. And this meltdown had been caused before due to the policy advices of institutions like IMF and the World Bank. Deregulate, cut budget. We couldn't even finance the health sectors. Let the market forces determine, pricing. And that's what really prepares us. Put us in a situation in which to lock down for 1 week was so difficult in this country because people are under pressure to survive, especially those who are in the informal sectors. Now, for us to return back to policy advice from World Bank, I don't think it's ill-advised. I don't think it's well-advised at all. It's completely ill-advised. And I want to say here that as we are gradually easing out, Ruben, I want to advise our government that we should not return to business as usual policies of the past, in which you announce policy measures without consultation properly with the citizens. We've been in this business for long, right from 2012, the major one that we had under the President Goodluck Jonathan. And we had the consensus that for us to move from this, to move to new regime of what they call deregulation, you need to do proper, appropriate consultation. You also need to put certain alternatives in places.
Well, comrade,
in a way that transition become quite seamless.
Well, comrade,
and this has not been done in this context. Yes.
No, comrade, if I may come in here, it won't be fair to say that the federal government of Nigeria has not been involved in consultations. Yeah. Now, the position of the federal government is very clear. One, removal of fuel subsidy, which since 2012 we've been told is unsustainable if you continue to do to subsidize petroleum consumption. And second, the point has also been made that the downstream sector needs to be deregulated, and that PMS in particular should be deregulated. Now, government has been consistent on that score. The problem, as I see it, is why is it that civil society, consumers, the general public continue to insist that, look, government is wrong? What are those things that you would say government should do? Reforms, get the refineries working, PIB, or whatever?
Yeah, Ruben, where you say that government has made this position known, I think you are generously too fair to government. Of course, we had the soundbite. In fact, let me put it this way. The NNPC MD sometimes in July. That's Kyari, who has brought a lot of activism to the corporate governance of NNPC, some openness, in the accounting reporting. We now have published accounts of NNPC. Very good. But he announced to us, that was sometimes in July, that we are exiting completely from pricing of petroleum products. Price fixing, according to him, is all over once and for all. Again, we had the soundbite, but that's policy dictatorship, Ruben. What you expect is that we should sit down with all the stakeholders so that we know what are the assumptions that inform this, what are the issues, how do we transit together? Because the reaction you are going to get from that approach is exactly the reaction we're already having from the civil society. Soundbites now, notice of strike, notice of protest. And we have gone through these policy shouting matches for a long time. But now we should be able to learn how to manage reform. And to manage reform means that you announce on the part of the government what's your view, then organize businesses, labor, we also tell them our concern. Then we have a kind of understanding and agreement to see how do we manage the transition. But the way we carry out the reform in this country is more of a shock therapy rather than gradualist and engaging. But back to the question you raised, what should be done? Again, those are part of the issues that we have raised before. One of the things that I think we should change now, Ruben, as we are coming up from this pandemic, because we have seen now, one of the takeaway of COVID-19 pandemic is that we can't rely on global supply chains for our survival. At a point, they couldn't even pick our crude oil. Can you imagine one day that you even want to import petroleum products at the best of the regulated prices? Nobody wants to supply to you for whatever reason. We have a disruption. I think there is no logic than for us to produce our own petroleum products. And you have touched part of it. Why is it that the soundbite from petroleum sector, in the downstream sector, is all about pricing? What happens to refineries? Kyari promised, in fact, before Kyari, we had the, economic recovery group plan. It actually promised that by 2018, 70% of our petroleum products will be refined locally. Now, as I'm talking to you, 100% we are importing, full-blown. And we are looking for appropriate price to service those imported petroleum products, create jobs in Amsterdam, in UK, rather than in our own country. So what I'm saying is that I thought we need proper engagement. How do we get refineries on? President Buhari has also promised to turn the 4 refineries around. You have turned around maintenance, he approved money for it. Where is the soundbite? Where is the result? Accountability back? How far are we with the 4 refineries? Again, don't forget that this country before was self-sufficient in petroleum production. I mean, we are not new to this. 4 refineries were before. The late Damusami of Kano, that's Metama Sule. He was the first energy minister in this country. He told us of his story, how they have to put their feet on the ground because the big oil companies, Mobil and Co, didn't want us to have local refinery. As far back as 60s, they said, no, we must refine our own product. And we started Port Harcourt 1, later Port Harcourt 2, then you have Warri Refinery, later on you have Kaduna Refinery. I think this is the way we should go. Nigerians would like to pay any price, unregulated, for locally produced products because it even gives us all the benefits along the value chain. We can create jobs, we can employ our people, and we can let the refineries work. So what I want to say in summary is that let's pass the petroleum industry bill as much as possible, let the refineries working. Let's also encourage more private refineries. I'm happy that Liquid Dangote refinery is going to be coming on board very soon. I also know in Edo State, almost 80% completion of the modular refinery by the state government. That's the way to go, not to be having pricing that will promote import. Because addictive import, these forces of import will not make the refineries to work in the two sides of the world. And they will post prices for us that will not be, will create more problems than solving as we're already having currently. So what I want to say is that let there be, as the NSC and TUC have called up, let there be engagement on this new policy that have been announced. We can't return back to this war of attritions because everybody's already, and we're just coming out of the pandemic. Everybody's a loser. I mean, you can imagine us to have thousands of people across the street again, even with the best of social distancing. You can't afford the spread of this pandemic. And I thought policy makers should be able to be clear. There, I had the Minister of State, my friend Timi Presiva, who announced very well that now he has asked people to reconfigure his vehicle so that he can now use gas. I think they are planning compressed natural gas. You know better. I hope that's not what you're also using. You can rely on compressed natural gas. But is it for him as a minister, or few of us who can be privileged, or for the critical mass of Nigerians? What I want to hear is that public buses in Abuja, in Kaduna, in Port Harcourt, in Lagos are now going to use compressed natural gas, as you put it there. Prices will be stable, and we will not know what the price of petroleum product is. Let me leave you on this note. Well, Ruben, let me also leave you on quick this note on this remark. Okay. I went to ABU in the 70s from Ilorin, and I know that time, even that time, prices of petroleum were deregulated. But I never knew what it was to travel by road. We were traveling by rail. Trains used to carry us all the way from Ilorin to ABU. I never traveled throughout my undergraduate study to know what it was by road. This is the way we should go. Let's put those machinery in place. Nigeria will not care what the price of petroleum prices look like. Well, comrade,
we don't have much time. I would have loved to ask you 2 more questions. But look, it looks like the average Nigerian is not willing to make a sacrifice. These are difficult times. We have COVID-19, which has upended everything. We have a revenue problem. We have a debt problem in Nigeria. Our trade balance is in the deficit of up to about 1.8 trillion. And government has been calling for understanding, sacrifice, cooperation. Why is it that Nigerians are not willing to cooperate with government and make the necessary sacrifice?
Wait, Ruben, how can you say that? I mean, you are not a Ghanaian. we are Nigerians. Nigerians have done so much of sacrifices, and they have done so much. Wait, let's look at the numbers. You said, and I had also official story, that at 161 naira, 162 naira per liter, we are still one of the cheapest in terms of the price of petrol. Now, but have you looked at what the minimum wage is? I'm talking of that's organized labor, those of us who are privileged to be in a regular job. Minimum wage today is less than $75 per month. And you are talking of 30,000 to keep family of 4. Family of 4 to survive. Where do you pay? And those are even the ones that have regular income. I'm talking of those who are informal sector, who live from mouth hand to mouth every day, who have no source of income, no social security in this country, no transfer of resources for the unemployed people. I mean, you know the story in the United States under this pandemic. Ruben, if you see the amount of money American government has transferred to the unemployed just to survive, who pays the unemployment benefit in this country? I also had recently in Geneva, the Swiss government is giving a minimum of 85 Swiss francs to every tourist that comes to Geneva to revive the tourist economy. So wait, you can't say that we've not. In fact, this is a country in which people have carried more burden, and it is government officials not sacrificing. I mean, wait, as we are talking on that pandemic, legislators called delivery of vehicles running to millions of naira. You know the story very well. Senators, legislators. There are official weddings going on of daughters, of relations of those who are in government. It's business as usual. Where is the sacrifice we are seeing? Okay, even if legislators buy the vehicles, are they made in Nigerian vehicles? None. They are not buying Innocent. They are not buying Peugeot in Kaduna. There is no Toyota Nigeria. That is coming. Lisa, they have just come on stream now to do some vehicles. These are not the ones government officials are using. I think leaders are the ones who must sacrifice more. I mean, we know very well, even under the military government, in those days, when we had the shock in revenue, government took the decision to say that you can only use locally produced Peugeot. That's how we had the low profile. You know the story very well. Now, at a time the numbers are worse, that's where you are seeing business as usual of our leaders. So I don't think it's charitable to say so. But whatever the option are, whether people will take sacrifice, whether people will know what the numbers are, let's do engagement. engage your citizens. Let there be a platform. And I think it's not still late, Ruben, for this engagement to really take place. And I hope the federal government will quickly engage Nigerian Labour Congress, the TUC, or the civil society, so that when we dialogue, we replace dialogue, with this monologue going on.
Well, constructive engagement, yes. I get your point, Comrade ISSA AREMU, but I don't have a problem with people's daughters getting married, even when they are in government. Life has to go on at the family level. But thank you very much for joining us on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. It's time now for a break here on Thisday Live. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Joining me now in the studio, I have Professor BOLA AKINTERINWA, Director General, Bolytag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Also here, YEMI ADAMOLEKUN, Executive Director, Enough is Enough. And of course, Chike Ogia, former Commissioner for Information Data State. Chike, YEMI, and Prof, welcome to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. We've been focusing on the hike in petrol prices, pump price of petrol, and also the hike in electricity tariffs. Many Nigerians are protesting. 69 civil society organizations are saying that the timing is wrong, the increase is insensitive, even when government had made it clear, as far back as April, that fuel prices at petrol stations will be determined by market forces. Once the spot price of petroleum goes up, then of course Nigerians should expect to pay more. And now we're being told to pay 161, 162 by independent petroleum marketers, and yet it could go up again if the pump price goes to, say, like $100 per liter crude oil, spot price. Then Nigerians may find themselves paying as much as 500 naira per liter. And that was the question I posed to Comrade ISSA AREMU. That government had made this clear, that market forces will now determine what goes on. But he was saying that there is no enough engagement with Nigerians. What other engagement should we have? Yemi, I'll start with you.
Well, on this one, I definitely would agree with Comrade AREMU that there's not enough engagement, but also that I'm not surprised. For a government that doesn't care about lives of Nigerians, people are dying all over the country. Increasing the price of oil and making your life harder, I don't think anybody should expect them to hold our hands and be like, our dear citizens. The president has not addressed the country since April. He addressed us in the early stages of COVID.
Should address the country because of fuel price?
Just in general. Really, because he's the same. Actually, thank you for asking that question. President Muhammadu Buhari, when he was running for office, said there's no fuel subsidy, that it's a scam, that it doesn't exist. Now so what is he removing now exactly? Why are we now doing spot price of crude if there was no subsidy in the first place? So on that note, not only as the president of the country, but also the minister of petroleum, he should address the country and eat his words. Apologize to Nigerians that this thing that if you wanted to do, if you had done it 5 years ago, we would have gotten used to it so that it's not in the midst of a pandemic when things are difficult that Nigerians have to deal with it. That's number one. Number two, one of the major lessons, at least from civil society, from 2012's protests, is that we didn't continue the engagement. The protest happened because they were going to remove subsidy. And the reason at the time, which I still stand by for anybody who is curious about it, was that the Jonathan administration claimed that they agreed there was a subsidy, but they said that the subsidy regime was so corrupt and that people were siphoning fuel through our borders, that the system of payments of subsidies wasn't transparent, therefore... And
it was unsustainable.
But primarily, unsustainable, yes. But if something is unsustainable, you don't necessarily have to yank it off at once. You can work towards taking it off. But the primary thing that they kept talking about was the corrupt or the fraud in the system. Till today, I don't know how many people got jailed for that so-called fraud. After all the panels and all the reports and all the bribery, dollars inside the hat and all of that. So if as a system and a government, there's dishonesty, it makes it very difficult for citizens to even understand where you're going. But even if we want to even move this a step further, have we deregulated the sector? government should not be announcing by memo what the price of oil is this month. If we want to deregulate the sector, pass the BIG bill, deregulate the sector, and to Comrade's point, engage, do stakeholders meeting, let everybody be clear that this is what we're doing. And then in terms of palliatives or not, if you want to call them that, then have clear things in place. And I like the suggestion he made. Let's say all buses will be running on natural gas, which means prices stay lower than they are, because you can actually, in a sense, fix those prices. So citizens are not at the mercy of those who are changing prices because of this fuel price hike. So there is a lot to be said. But if a government doesn't care if you are alive or dead, I don't think they'll care if you are paying 200 naira for fuel.
But YEMI, next week we're told that it's going to be a national day of action, organized by about 79 civil society organizations. I'd like to know, is your NGO part of that protest, so that I can start preparing? Because if the DSS, if they come after you again, they beat you up, take your phone, so I will be mentally prepared to say you can't do this to YEMI ADAMOLEKUN, who is my person. Are you going to join the protest? Or you think that the people should understand the position of government?
Oh, not at all. I believe very much in the right of citizens to express their discontent. And if we want to do that by a protest, I definitely I support it. Do I think it will change anything materially? No. But I do support the right of citizens to express themselves via protest.
Okay, Chike, let me come to you. You listen to Comrade ISSA AREMU, and you are also a concerned citizen. Do you think that the people are justified, even when they've been informed early enough that market forces are in charge now, either in terms of fuel or electricity tariffs? What's your take?
Well, you know, the unfortunate thing about this government is that it actually came into power as a pro-poor government. And it's very unfortunate because the Jonathan government was supposed to be the real neo-capitalist government, the government that was foisting so much hardship on the common people. And we were too glad to get this new government that was coming on egalitarianism and all of that. And Nigerians cannot, I'm sure right now, believe what has happened. Because just like Comrade had said, even if we take it purely from the contextual point of view, this hike is totally insensitive. The timing is wrong. It's coming at a time when we're just trying to get out of a pandemic. We are all still so glad that God has been gracious to us and we did not see the kind of deaths we were expecting to see, because if that had happened, I wonder if that is what we'll be talking about now, petroleum price. Then they hit the petroleum increase at the same time with an electricity tariff hike. I mean, I think this is the most insensitive thing by this government. And I wonder who advises them on this kind of thing. Just like Comrade said, something seems to be wrong. Something is amiss. The fiscal policies and the monetary policies from the CBN don't seem to tally. Because, yes, you can see that there's this yeoman job being made by the CBN to try and reflate the economy, because that's what we need now. Policies that will create jobs, that will cushion the effect of the pandemic. And while that is going on the one hand, then government policies are coming out with this kind of things. The fact that the petroleum minister talked about it in June or whenever he talked about it, or no, even it wasn't, I think it was the GMD of NNPC that said we should get ready for deregulation and all of that, it still does not mean that when the time comes, it is just going to be a decision that will be unilaterally taken by the government. You don't sensitize the public enough. You don't get them mentally prepared. You don't have any palliatives in place. We don't have alternatives, just like Comrade alluded. We all have to travel by one shared means of transport. All other forms of transport, rail, water, everything else is dead in Nigeria. So what exactly this government is doing is what I don't understand. But I believe, I'm one of those that believe that Nigerians really, really deserve this government. And yes, some of us that were never part of the government are also suffering along with it, but I'm happy it is happening this way. Maybe Nigerians will learn a thing or two about this going forward when people come and start promising things, that obviously are not workable or achievable, just for them to throw one government out and for them to get it. That's my take.
Prof, all the three previous speakers, they've more or less been saying the same thing, I hope I will hear something different. Because it looks like Nigerians have a sense of entitlement, some kind of feeling that, yes, we produce crude oil. Why should we pay so much? Why should the international price of crude oil be the benchmark? Can't government do something different so that we can benefit from what we produce? Why are we not benefiting from Nigeria's #1 natural resource?
Well,
where is the missing link?
Chike told us that he's not able to understand what the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is doing. He couldn't understand. I cannot say I have understood, but I think I can interpret, what the government is trying to do based on different factors. President Buhari is not lucky as a man and as a president, either because of his immediate collaborators or the caucus.
Is president of Nigeria. He's lucky, isn't he?
He cannot
it's
be
not
lucky.
Everybody that will be president.
No, you see, I'm making a point. The issue is that all those who are coming up with suggestions like this, all right, I think they do not like Nigeria, one, and they never wanted, they do not want President Buhari to succeed. Because the issue is that in Nigeria, our leaders easily forget history. They purport not to know history. They cannot easily remember how, for instance, the French Revolution began, how it began. It is because of a price hike that people revolted. People easily forget how the First World War started. That it is simply because of someone Saduk riding bicycle all along, and they use that pretext to ensure that there is an accident and people will revolt. People easily forget how, for instance, the Second World War started. In Poland, 1938, how, President Buhari of Nigeria doesn't easily know that all these policies that are coming up can generate spontaneous revolution, general uprising. The main problem that the government has not come to terms with is simply that people are trying to recover, trying to cope with the challenges of COVID-19. Now, you come up with a fuel price, you increase it, and you are not even doing it gradually. How can you move from 151 naira to about 161?
Actually, 148.
No, 148 basic. Nobody, you can only be lucky to buy from 148. The common standard of those things is 151. But even if we admit that, 148, can't we increase it from 148, 151 to say 154, 156, 158, so that people cannot easily feel that?
No, there is a pricing template.
Yeah.
I understand
which
that.
aligns with the spot price, and then there are charges, landing costs and other costs.
Yeah.
Look, it's still the same thing. If you are having...
But the point is, we can't
If you are
afford
saying
the
reduce
difference.
it, you are saying retain subsidy.
Exactly.
You are
No,
making
I'm
an
coming.
argument for subsidy.
No,
Yeah.
you see, the critical point there, the challenge, the issue, is making a choice, all right? You make a choice between continuity of a subsidy or allow it to be market-determined prices. This is the issue.
Before we go on to another topic, there is also controversy over electricity tariffs. The NERC, the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, came up with a new template. They say they will protect the poor. There are 5 categories, A to E, but the discos don't seem to be too pleased with it. The government is saying if you have electricity, pay for it. because one of the things that we need to be able to get World Bank loan of $150 billion is to have service-reflective electricity tariffs, where we call it cost-reflective tariffs. But they have changed from cost to service. Do you have a problem with that? It's like Nigerians don't want to pay for anything.
That is not the issue. That is not the issue. From what we have been told, price determination is now a function of how many hours of electricity supply. That's one first factor. Okay? Other advanced countries where we have like 24/7, please, it's not as expensive as this. You talk about electricity generation. You talk about electricity distribution. And in this case, the bottom line is that if you are going to have price high, if I'm saying that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, people are saying that the government is insensitive. It's not a question of not being sensitive or insensitive. I'm looking at the administration as being deliberately wicked to the Nigerian people. Why are you bringing all this price hike at the same time? Yeah. So in this case, you can just imagine a situation whereby you have electricity hike on the one hand, fuel increase at the same time, and coronavirus is still there. It has a beginning. We don't know the end.
Okay, Prof.
And in this case,
let's hope that the federal government will find a way to manage the response from Nigerians, and that this will not lead to the strike, the protests that civil society organizations
the government has
promising.
said no going back, and the unionists are saying they too, they are continuing.
Yes, well, maybe
reputation
that's the
is
point about the engagement.
No, but the union's reputation is clear. We'll sit at the table and let's see what comes out this time.
Yes, but of course, people should know that this has been on the table since April, and government's
They should
position
have sympathy for
is
the
very
people
clear.
of Nigeria. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong in giving labeling Nigerian people to survive.
But if they're killing you,
okay,
that's
it's okay. I see that all four commentators on this subject are on the side of the people and anti-government. But let's take another topic. Just recently, the federal government of Nigeria was granted more time by a London-based commercial court to challenge an arbitration award of $9.6 billion in favor of Process and Industrial Development Limited, P&Id, over a failed gas supply processing agreement, GSPA. To put the matter in context, the $9.6 billion award accounts for about a quarter of Nigeria's current foreign reserves. In the ruling made public last Friday, Judge Ross Cranston granted Nigeria extra time to challenge the arbitral award, having established a strong prima facie case of fraud against P&Id. The ruling allows the West African nation to continue to seek to overturn the penalty on the grounds that the company had obtained a gas supply contract a decade ago and the favorable arbitration decision through fraudulent means. Last year, a British judge, Butcher J, as it were, had upheld the award won in 2017, a ruling that Nigeria is also appealing. However, Nigeria, through its lawyers, had argued in July that it should be allowed to contest the arbitration panel's conclusions outside the usual 28-day time limit because evidence of corruption perpetrated by P&Id had only recently been discovered. This is where we are with the P&Id case. You will recall that at the time that Justice Butcher of the Commercial Court in England gave that ruling against Nigeria, one of the issues was that Nigeria failed to act expeditiously. Then now Nigeria said, look, if we have to pay $9.6 billion, that's about 40% of our foreign reserves. I mean, that would derail the entire country. And there have been other cases that have come up since then. And the federal government, through the EFCC, the Ministry of Justice, and other departments of government said Nigeria will insist that this was a fraudulent transaction. And now they've been able to get a reprieve. What we have is a reprieve to prevent the enforcement of the arbitral award, and also to give us enough time to push our case. How important is this from a patriotic point of view? That's my own concern. Chike, let me start with you this time.
Wow. You know, this P&Id case is one of those cases that you begin to wonder, you know, what really is going on. I don't even want to go straight into what I'll call the facts of the case and the aftermath. I want to go into what went on behind the scenes. We know it's supposed to be an arbitration, and the whole thing was during the Jonathan era, if I believe. Now, at that time, whether we like it or not, I'm a lawyer, and we all have political persuasions, even those of us that are in private practice or those of us that have gone into government. I don't understand if there was no other lawyer that could have been instructed that had clear PDP leanings at that time. What informed for the government of the day at that time, even though, you know, you can say arbitrators are quite few and far between in Nigeria because it's a new area of law, quite specialized, to have briefed, you know, a solicitor that is, you know, or a lawyer that is definitely on the other side. And that is why people were feeling that maybe that case was not treated with the level of seriousness it deserves and all of that. I don't think so, because I happen to know the gentleman that handled him, and I think he's of the highest pedigree. But I'm just saying these are things people are looking at. I think his professional competence and ability cannot be questioned. But it would have been better, obviously, if the PDP had given that brief to, you know, like a PDP lawyer in quotes. And then you see, now you can see Malami doing a yeoman's job with the case, because he is invested in the government. He is part of the government. Who was the Attorney General at that time? And why could he not do what Malami is doing now? You know, and like you rightly said, look at the quantum of the judgment sum. We are talking about a quarter of our GDP as a country. And everybody knows, if you lift the veil of that matter, you will know that that case was clearly a fraudulent case. These P&ID people did not have the requisite infrastructure to do what they had put themselves out to do, and that was what informed the whole idea. But of course, as usual, we have Nigerians always ready to connive with, you know, their foreign collaborators to just take money out of the country. Well, and that is the mess we are in.
I see you are being careful.
Yes.
You yourself could have lifted the veil, because some of those persons you were referring to, they are known, they were named, and some of them were even named in the ruling by Justice Ross Ganson. But in any case, Prof, quickly, what lessons can we learn from this P&ID case? If there is still time, we'll take just one more topic, but quickly. This is a learning opportunity for Nigeria.
Well, I think we should learn from the implication for law itself. I think we have two areas of law, principles in international law. First, which is sanctity of agreements, upon which the tribunal ruled, pactatum servanda. Nigerian government defended itself on the basis of the rule of robus sic stantibus. That is, there is a fundamental change, all right, in the matters, in the issues considered. So this time it's not a question of withdrawing from an international agreement, but that these rules should apply in considering the arbitral award. I think we can learn from that and develop, you know, these two principles within the framework of arbitration. The second point to learn is that, look, when, for instance, there was a ruling For good 5 years, Nigeria could not quickly respond. I think the public service should learn how to respond, to issues. They should not wait until they run into trouble. Then they would now introduce this fire approach in resolving that one. And more importantly, I think the lesson for us now is that, as you rightly pointed out, it's not yet Uhuru. So people should not just stay on the basis that we won the first round, but now should re-strategize and ensure that it is success ultimately.
Yeah, well, I mean, Prof, you're absolutely correct. Nigeria has a right to press its case. But if we have just 1 more minute to go, I would like to have a quick comment on the water resources bill, which is causing problems. Under that bill, government is saying if you want to dig a borehole in your house, you have to take permission from Abuja. And many Nigerians are incensed, although they have couched the argument in geographical and ethnic terms. Prof, quickly.
You see,
we have just about a minute to go.
You see, Olusegun Obasanjo drew attention to the fact that there is an agenda of Fulanization. People do not want to listen.
No, they have water in Kebbi. They have in Taraba. They have in the Middle Belt.
I am coming. This water bill something. It's assembly. The issue was raised, but it was jettisoned, it was dropped. Now it was brought in again, and again through the back door, first reading, second reading. No, it means that our leaders, all these National Assembly people, they are fraudulent. They are not telling us the truth. And that's why I raised the issue of Fulanization to say, look, government is giving impression that truly it has a secret agenda. And it's not good. It's not good.
Well, the conversation around the water resources bill, water resource bill, will continue, I'm sure. The many Southerners are incensed, but the truth of the matter is that there are also states in the north that have water resources. You've been watching Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.